There is something interesting that is coming out of Gachagua's impeachment. And there's a gentleman here that shared something that is very, very interesting. And I want you to watch. I want you to have a listen in to this, what this guy said. And this one will form our basis of our engagement. So have a listen in.
The state must ban the midnight oil, especially the regime, leave alone the state, to ensure that Gachagua wins this case.
That Gachagua wins the case?
Yes. Why?
Okay.
A loose Kalonzo having support from Gachagua is a too dangerous way that Ruto does not want to face in 2027.
Okay.
Because a Kalonzo candidacy with a possible Sifuna deputization, okay? Leave alone what we're discussing Ukombele. Now we are on the crux of the matter. A Kalonzo presidency supported by Gachagua with a Sifuna deputization.
Sifuna deputizing him?
Deputizing Kalonzo. Takes the wheelbarrow plus the oranges plus everything that is in it in a whirlwind and takes away.
You have listened to that guy speak. And I'm very, very sad to know that these are the kind of people who are working with Raila and were advising Raila and were part of the Raila's advisory team. Because this person clearly, the fact that you have very good English, it shows that you are very, very clueless when it comes to politics. It's very, very clear. And I find it sad that people still engage in, people still have this kind of ideas and they think they are very, very smart. And they share it with a lot of vigor and say, oh, this is this. Yani they make it feel like they have now discovered something that should be so, so scary. That the government, that William Ruto regime should ensure that Gachagua's win this case by all means. So that according to his thinking, so that Gachagua can be on the ballot. So that Gachagua, if Gachagua is on the ballot and Kalonzo is on the ballot and Nini, then they are going to divide votes and William Ruto atapita katikati. That is his thinking. So for William Ruto to win the election in 2027, according to him, that Gachagua needs to be on the ballot. That is the best, your best political analyst. People who used to sit down and advise Raila, that is the best idea. That is the best way he can think of things. And he's telling us that that a Kalonzo that is backed with Gachagua and deputized by Sifuna, that will be a very lethal weapon. That will be a very lethal weapon for William Ruto that William Ruto does not want to face. Now that's a thinking of one of Raila. And I don't know why Raila used to have very smart people around him. But if his people used to, why did Raila used to leave anybody advised him? Because I don't understand. First, we must understand one thing. I have said it in a rather previous video. Gachagua's impeachment cannot be overturned. That one will stand. Gachagua, and once you are impeached, the law is very clear on the incident, on if you are impeached, you cannot run for a seat. The Supreme Court has no power to overturn Gachagua's impeachment. The Supreme Court doesn't have that power to do that. The Supreme Court can overturn another ruling of another court, of a lower court. Look at even all the Senate, all the governors that were governors at what Nini. The court only challenged the process. The court used to challenge the process. And this process was challenged when you are impeached by the MCAs and you rush to court. But once the parliament, once the Senate had concluded and had said you are impeached, then that was it for you. Even if you go to court, the court has never saved you. Tell me somebody who was impeached by Senate and the court saved him. Why are we being ignorant? Tell me one person, one governor who was impeached in Senate and he rushed to court and the court overturned the impeachment. Tell me one governor one governor who was impeached in Senate and then he rushed to court and the court overturned his impeachment. But the court was able to overturn some impeachment of governors when the governor rushed to court to stop his case from going to Senate, because that was not a complete process. Because the Senate has the final say. This is a political issue. And once the Senate, when it comes to impeachment, the Senate is like the Supreme Court. Once the Senate concludes and seals your fate, it is done. That's the only thing that the court can do. The court can only do the process of trying to look at, was the process done, nina. If the process was done, the court can raise issues on that. But your impeachment will still stand. And that's why people like Akina Sonko are still impeached. They stand impeached despite the fact their cases are still in court. Get your facts right. So that is why the Senate has freedom to overturn an impeachment of a governor. Once a governor has been impeached by the MCS, the Senate has overturned some of those impeachment. Not once, not twice, so many times. Because it is the ultimate decider. The same way the Supreme Court is the ultimate decider when it comes to court. It can overturn the ruling of any court below it, whether the Court of Appeal, the High Court, or the Magistrate Court, or any other court. So, with that fact in place, you should know that this kind of talks from this kind of people, they argue based on emotions. They don't have facts. Because if you had facts, you would have told people the truth. That is number one. Because if Gachagua knew that his impeachment can be overturned, then he could have not dropped that of impeachment and goes for compensation. He could have not gone for compensation. Because he knows he stands impeached. And once you're impeached, you cannot run for a seat. It's very clear, for 10 years. So that one will still stand. That is number one. Number two, this guy is telling us that Kalonzo, backed by Gachagua and Sifuna, that now William Ruto should sit down and be worried. Someone is talking like this. It's as if William Ruto joined politics yesterday. It's as if William Ruto just rose from nowhere and landed and found himself to be the president of Kenya. He's talking as if William Ruto is a lame duck president. So, what does, Kalonzo, let's assume even if they decide to work together, and this other side decide to work together, in your own thinking, hata kama wewe ni mtu mzaliwa juzi, you think that combination can defeat the president? First and foremost, you are forgetting one thing. That William Ruto has one man on his side who is a very strong man. And that is Kindiki. You must understand why William Ruto has kept Kindiki close to him. Kindiki carries the vote of the Tharaka-Nithi and the Embu behind him. So you telling us that Mount Kenya entirely is behind Gachagua. What you are trying to tell us is Mount Kenya is entirely behind Gachagua. If the whole of Mount Kenya is entirely behind Gachagua, why has he lost all the by-elections that have taken place in eastern part of Mount Kenya? Why? Why has he lost all the by-elections? So this kind of analysis, this kind of thinking is what has made Baba supporters delusional. Even when Baba is going to lose, they have always sold imaginations to Baba. The fact remains that in 2027, Mount Kenya will split. The Kikuyus might vote on one side, but the Embus, the Nidhis, and the Merus, majority of them will end up voting for William Ruto. That is the truth. Kamba will vote for Kalonzo. That is a given. But bringing Sifuna on the table and saying that Sifuna now will influence. Which influence does Sifuna have besides the online platform? Besides Titi Keleleza online, which other background, which ground does Sifuna have? Which stronghold does Sifuna have? Tell me one. Where is Sifuna's stronghold? And don't tell me online. And don't tell me the rallies. Because anyone can gather those rallies. We have seen Ruto have people in his rallies branded. We have seen Gachagua people join his rallies branded. We have seen Sifuna people come to his rally branded. This branding of people turning up. We have seen ODM have people in their rallies branded, and a crowd of people. So this is normal. You cannot analyze politics. You cannot conclude. You cannot say that a strength of a politician is in his way of branding, that the crowd that he pulls. Even opinion polls don't count that much. So this kind of thinking, this kind of people are the people who end up selling you some crazy imagination. You people must understand something with William Ruto. This is a man who has stayed in politics from 1992. He became a member of parliament in 1997. The guy has never lost. The guy is very strategic. The things you are thinking, the thing this guy is thinking, alishafikiria kitambo. Even the Sifuna that you are talking about. Unafikiria Ruto amekaa tu chini, anaona Sifuna kirana around atejampanga. Ashampanga kitambo sana. That is William Ruto for you. Even Raila, William Ruto alikuwa ashapanga Raila. Even Uhuru, William Ruto alikuwa ashapanga Uhuru. By the time they were working with him, William Ruto alikuwa ashampanga. And William Ruto understands betrayal. He understands that politics do be. So yeye uchipanga before umpange. And that is why alipanga Uhuru. By the time Uhuru alikuwa anaambia watu wa Mount Kenya wasivotie Ruto, Ruto had already penetrated Mount Kenya to a point whereby it was so hard to convince the people of the mountain not to support William Ruto. So this kind of people are the people then tunafahamu kai chini mfikirie. People who just say things and think that they are so smart, that we are the smartest people. We understand politics. We understand dynamics. Wanachambua with a lot of English. But think critically. Look deep into what they are saying. You will realize that they are speaking a lot of nothing. Kalonzo is somebody who cannot have a voice of his own. Kalonzo is somebody who cannot go on a presidential debate and debate with anybody and win any debate. He is someone that Kenyans know. So, even if it's backed by who, even if it's backed with whatever it is, that one cannot scare William Ruto. The only person who can scare William Ruto was Raila Odinga, because Raila Odinga has a massive following, loyal supporters. None of these politicians right now have loyal supporters. Only Kalonzo has loyal supporters from his Ukambani people, but their numbers is not significant. And you people, you have not understood the strategy that William Ruto is using. William Ruto is not using a strategy of, I want a certain stronghold. He already knows he has a stronghold in Rift Valley. William Ruto is looking for this small minority. Those votes that you people are trying to ignore. The Kisii votes, the Masai vote, the Somali votes, the Nini votes, the small votes. And then aongeze na ile yake. The Luo votes, the Luya votes, the Nini na Nini is matching pole kidogo. By the time you wake up asubuhi ya tarehe 8, ya tarehe 9, William Ruto is way ahead. Way ahead. So anyway, guys, it is what it is. Impeachment of Gachagua has no effect. Whether Gachagua decides to run, whether he decides to back up somebody, it has no effect. That is one thing that cannot give William Ruto sleepless nights. In fact, he would want Gachagua to remain outside. It will make his work even easy. Because he will not now have to start. Because if Gachagua is his major opponent in the ballot come 2027, William Ruto doesn't want to waste his energy kujibishana na Gachagua. Gachagua is like a loose cannon. He speaks anything, he says anything. So he doesn't want to invest his emotions in that. So he'd rather this person remains out. Wabishane na Kalonzo. Kalonzo hawezani na William Ruto. Kalonzo hawezani na William Ruto. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think in the comment section. But above it all, remain respectful. Sawa? Remain respectful. And if you want to support this platform, my number is always there. Kindly let's engage. Let's support this platform to grow. If you want us to partnership in any deal, whether you have something you want to sell or market or push, the platform is here. Kindly reach out. And I will always be glad to help you out with that. So let's do that. Until next time, make sure you subscribe to this platform. Subscribing is very, very important. So before you watch these videos, kindly always subscribe. Thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.
The African